I have no idea what's going on right now.
The firm said, well, we can teach anyone how to do accounting, but we can't teach you how to be an interesting person. So
I think it's interesting, but my kids think I'm a dork.
Even if you start a really cool music festival, your kids are always going to think you're a dork. So you can let go of that one.
Well, I mean, at this point, we're just rolling. I mean, Lori, you're just cranking them out. She's passionate about nonprofits, a live music aficionado, and a business owner. I'm here with Lori Shandro. Lori, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. Okay, so I know a little bit of your story, from tax accountant to medical benefits. Walk us through. I don't see those things coming together all the time. Help us with the story.
I think those things come together pretty well when you think about, I guess, I started as a tax accountant, as a tax CPA with Deloitte when I met my late husband in Seattle, and we were able to specialize in the taxation of insurance companies. Super sexy work. That's definitely how I introduced myself at bars. But when I came to visit his mom, because he grew up in Boise, fell in love with Boise and just the way the community feels and the accessibility of it, and so transferred to their office here. And that was in the beginning of 2000. I quickly figured out you couldn't really specialize in that kind of work here, so I moved to the other side in the insurance world and started my own small benefits and health insurance agency back in 2001. And really helping somebody with their taxes, which is a scary, complicated thing, isn't much different than helping somebody with benefits and health insurance. Scary, complicated. So I really have enjoyed helping people become less afraid of that subject because it's important. You have to deal with it. And then becoming their partner in making decisions and finding the right protection either for them and taking care of it for them and their family or them and their business. So I really, over the years, my favorite part is getting to know these people, all different kinds of people, different small businesses, they go from being a group of individuals or families to starting a business over the years to having it grow and then change. And that's been a really neat way for me to become involved and connected to a lot of people in this community.
So 2001 is when you started. So after the Y2K bug didn't do anything, you said, now I can start an insurance agency?
Yeah, right.
So that's a 23-year span. 24. I'm not an accountant. My numbers are fuzzy here. It is pretty cool in this industry to see how you can just do a policy for somebody, and then pretty soon you're like calling them and asking about their kid's graduation,
right,
and all those fun, important things in life. Where was your agency initially located, and where were your clients initially located?
We started once I started in my house, but just started from scratch and just asking everyone we ran into about who helps them with their health insurance and their benefits, and grew. Office was downtown. When not too far into it, I got the opportunity to buy a group of clients from an agent that wanted to retire, and her book of business was out in Canyon County for the most part, like Parma and Homedale and those great communities. And so I really was fortunate to get to spend a lot of time learning about the differences. And that was back in the day before you had Google Maps, or I think we called it MapQuest, and where roads started and stopped and changed for various reasons. But got to spend a lot of time out there. So really my clients have, in this general area, but lots of different types of people, types of business, mostly word of mouth. That's really, I think the thing they have in common is they're just living their lives, doing their business and needing some help with that part of it. And so I don't really have a particular industry or area, but I really do love the small Idaho startup, self-employed, Idaho and owned business.
We have a property and casualty client in Canyon County. We have a couple of them.
You have a lot of them.
Well, that's actually how I heard of you. Is one time I said, "Who does your benefits?" Like 10 years ago to an irrigation company, and they said, "Shandro Group." And I said, who's that? But I don't know benefits. So, but another one of those groups, it kind of was one of those, you talk about people living their lives. I was getting a tour of their equipment because we have to cover the equipment in case there's a fire. But I walked into this old shed that was probably built in 1920, and it was like old wood and equipment and oil. I mean, just the smell is very blue collar. And I said, stop. This is my grandpa's shop. The smell.
No way.
I can smell my grandpa's shop from when I was like 6 years old. I'm not a shop kid. I can't fix things. I can't fix a doorknob. I can't fix cars, any of that. But my grandpa had all kinds of tools. And so when I walked into that place, it reminded me of him. And it reminded me of maybe simpler times where people weren't, had real jobs. They weren't insurance agents. My grandpa would say, all insurance agents do is go whoop, whoop, whoop. Here's a policy for you.
Yeah, but really understanding, I think that's what I probably, when people say, what do you love about what you do? It's just insurance, but it's about becoming involved in these people's lives and learning about their fears and what they're doing, and the new cool massive printer that is one of its kind in Idaho, and getting to see how that's going to change this person's business. And that's really become what I'm passionate about. I think my kids, since they were little, they've been told they're not allowed to answer the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? Or what are you going to major in college? Because those aren't fair questions. It takes a long time to figure out why it is you love any kind of work and how you can apply that to your life. You're not passionate about insurance, right? It's the way you get to help people and interact with people.
Right. So just this week I had coffee with one of my friends. His son is in his 20s. And we were meeting to talk about careers. And he said, I want to be a financial advisor. I said, do you like sales? He said, no, not at all. I said, it's going to be tough because they want salesmen. They don't really want people to understand finances. I said, have you ever heard of it, underwriting for insurance? No, I've never heard of it. So we talked about it, and I connected him with a local friend, because insurance is that hidden industry that provides value. Talk about, on the health benefit side, how much fun it is to be there for people during really intense times of their life.
Yeah, I just feel like I didn't have the courage to be a financial advisor because so much pressure on someone's life. But so is making sure that they have the right coverage. I mean, let's face it, our health care costs in this country they don't make sense. They're not fair. They're not determined by people trying to figure out how money should be distributed the most fairly. It's politics, it's lobbying, and small employers still take the brunt more than their share of high costs for health insurance and benefits, and not even the best benefits. So really, the making sure that when someone decides to put a policy in place, that it's going to be there for them in the way they need it to when that time comes. And when the scary thing happens, to be the person that they can rely on to say, you're covered, this is how it's going to be. When things go wrong, to be able to help them fix that during those difficult times. It's an important product that we all It's an important protection that we all need, and it's really satisfying to feel like you're protecting people in the way you know they need to be protected, and it'll be there for them when they need it.
Amen. So what's the state of, I don't know this at all, what's the state of the general health insurance world in America? Where has it come in the last few years, and where do you see it going?
I think over the 24 years that I've been doing this, when something changes, like when the Affordable Care Act really got implemented in 2014, and other laws and changes that have come through, I think the way I end up summarizing it is that it's not great, it's not fair, it's just unfair or unfair in a different way to different groups of people. So helping people understand that it's not perfect, it's not, there are a lot of things that should be better, but here's the way it is, and here's how we can get the most out of it for the least for what you need to do right now. But deductibles, out-of-pocket maximums for people are still, they're not affordable. And if you look at the fact that an individual family policy under the Affordable Care Act or a small employer policy, if the maximum out of pocket that most of them have is $9,200 for an individual, that's a huge chunk of someone's savings if they even have that ability to save that much. And so if that ends up being their liability, that's not great, but you still have to have it because an appendectomy that is unexpected, 48-hour experience can cost $50,000 to $60,000 just because that's where costs are, and it's so complicated. As far as it's no one particular person or industry's fault, but being the powers that it be, it's not that people have to spend a lot of money. If you have something to protect, I feel like it's too much money that people have to spend either for their employees or for themselves as a family to protect their future, to protect themselves from having to make a major life change because of a medical need or instance.
Yeah.
And I don't really know that I see, especially for small employers and individuals, I don't know that I see anything on the horizon that anybody is talking about that's going to change that in the opposite direction, unfortunately.
What about, and I don't know if this is a hot button issue or a bad thing to bring up, but what about like these meta-share plans? What are your thoughts on those?
I totally understand the desire or the attractiveness of them, and I know a lot of people who have gone on to using them. The only thing I think, when I talk to people about them, it's not something an insurance or a benefits agent can really represent, but we do our best to understand how each one of them is different. They aren't really insurance in a guaranteed way. They're a partnership amongst a group of people that have agreed to somehow share costs, and there's no guarantee that they're going to share costs in the way you might need them to. So I think that's for a lot of people, they work great, but I also have a couple of people for whom they decided to not pay for something large and life-changing that happened. So there's pros and cons to everything, and I just really want to help people understand where there are risks and benefits in everything.
Yeah. Well, here's a question where I don't mean this in a political way at all. I'm just trying to think through healthcare and how challenging it is. I subscribe to The Economist, and probably every other issue, but at least once a month, they'll have something on the National Health Service in England. Of course, it's a London-based publication. So they're talking about what we need to do is change XYZ, or here's how we can get more nurses into rural areas, all these different things. America has a health system. Canada has their own system. England has, I don't even know. They're all different to me. What are your thoughts on those? Like, what kind of things do brokers think about when people will ask about those, more nationalized healthcare systems?
Yeah, I guess first reaction was you subscribe to The Economist, so I take it you struggle from insomnia. You read those things?
I think it's interesting, but my kids think I'm a dork. They actually will flip through the magazine looking for pictures of Taylor Swift or other things before I read it.
Let me tell you, even if you start a really cool music festival and do anything else, your kids are always going to think you're a dork. So you can let go of that one. But back to your question, most of my family's from Canada, on my mom's side. Spent a lot of time there. When I was a kid, there was just so great, and it was. And then over time, it has suffered the burdens and challenges of some of the things that it struggles with over time, and it became not so great sometimes. And then they work on those things. I think every health system has those patterns. Sometimes a lot of people, I think the people I apologize to the most when they move here are the people from the Netherlands. I think they've done a really good job of figuring out, here's our population that we're going to cover and protect, here's what we're going to provide for them. It seems to have sustained itself and stayed healthy for the longest. Some of the systems in Europe, as much as the national health system in Great Britain has done well and struggled. They're what they're trying to do is provide a basic level of healthcare to their population.
Right.
And Germany, I think, also does a really good job from what I hear for the people that move here, for example. It's not political, but if you look at what the United States spends already on healthcare between Medicaid and Medicare and other things, if there was some way to step back and redistribute that, we're already spending probably more than we would have to provide a basic level of healthcare to every American. But our political system is just not set up, I don't think, to let that happen. There's just too many industries that would lose, and nobody wants to give anything up. And I'm not criticizing, I'm just saying I don't see how there could be a path for that to happen.
Right. Well, so as you went through your career, and I guess you started your own business, so that's different from other people who are within a business maybe, but do you have any mentors or people that you looked up to that you want to mention?
I would say probably my longest mentor, there's lots of people, of course, that I look up to, but Dave Self is someone who has played many roles in this industry, both in the music business side that I've worked on for the last 10 or 15 years quite accidentally, but also just from helping see business in the healthcare world and health insurance. And I did start my own business and never ever thought I would be a self-employed person. And one of the things he told me in the last few years, when I would get scared and think maybe I'll just go get a job, I can always just go get a job, is he laughed and he said, I hope you realize at this point that you're unemployable. Right? Once you've been self-employed for a certain period of time, you'd have to let go of the idea that you're just going to go get a job. You become unemployable and just have to push forward with knowing you're going to keep running your own thing,
right?
Which is pros and cons. Sometimes I'd love to just clock out. I know a lot of people who run their own businesses that have figured that out. So I'm still working on that.
So, okay, hold on. You've got Shandro Group, and then you've got, we haven't even scratched the surface of the nonprofits you're involved in, the music festival. Let's start with the music festival. I barely know live music. I know of Treefort, but I thought it was like what I didn't know is whether it's Treefort or Coachella or any of these, they start off with someone saying, we should get a few bands together or whatever. Like there's an origin story. They don't start off by having Katy Perry show up or whatever bands Treefort has. Walk us through and a lot of folks watching won't be familiar with Boise or with Treefort. So give us an overview of that and how it began and where it is today.
Actually, I think what is unique about it, the Treefort Music Fest happens usually around the third week of March, and we had our first one in 2012. And I think what is unique about it is that it was started quite on accident by a group of people that came together who had never done it before and made it happen, as opposed to, I would say, other music festivals that you hear about that go on from year to year. Most of them have started and run by a company that has experience. And I think that's what makes it special and more resilient, is that it is a very community-built thing. So what happened, and going back to when I first moved to Boise, what I love about this community is you can actually affect change here. I mean, I grew up in places or went to school in places or worked in places all along the West Coast, big cities. And I never felt like I could start anything, be self-employed, make a change, get involved and change something significant. But when I came to this community, it is of such a size that if you have friends over time, after 10 years of being in the health insurance industry and working with lots of different clients, and someone will say, I have this problem. I really want to fix this problem in our community. And then they'll reach out, you're an accountant. How do we figure out how to set up so that we can take tax-free money so that we can solve this problem. And it's like, well, now we need someone who knows about production or engineering, or we need an attorney, and we all reach out to our friends. And that's really what happened with Treefort, is that a friend of mine and I were talking about the fact that a lot of the bands that we really wanted to see, my kids were just old enough where I could start doing that more often. And a lot of the emerging bands that I wanted to see really weren't playing in Boise.
Okay.
And so he was getting his MBA at the time, and he needed an internship between those 2 years. And so he got permission to work with me and get paid to write a business plan for a venue that could exist in Boise, and how its marketing would have to work, and how the economics of the venue would have to work to support lower ticket price shows, to really start attracting and marketing to people who wanted to see these emerging artists that were maybe passing through Boise but not really playing here. And so once we had that, we didn't know what to do with it, so we started talking to people, and we met Eric, who ended up being one of our original founders and partners, and really the visionary who still has continued to build what all of that has become. And he had the idea for a 2 or 3 day festival, trying to get artists to route after South by Southwest in Austin this way, so that we kind of could get that traffic coming through here and exposing artists to to the fans in Boise, to our local bands, just what we had to offer here. And so I said, let's do it. And we just kept reaching out to people. Who knows how to rent a stage? Who knows how to work with the city to close streets? And who knows hospitality? Who can put together things from our community to offer these artists while they're here? It was just a group of really volunteers. No one had had experience doing that kind of thing before. And it was kind of a special moment in the way that, in the time of Boise, but also where a group of people came together. And then it just took off. And so I didn't mean to be involved with it so heavily or for as long as I have been. But really what has come out of it is a year-round business to really support and grow the live music ecosystem in Boise, so that people can work year-round or be in a band and make it here. And so we have the festival, and I was really able to be at more of a leadership level right when the pandemic came on. But then, as I'm sure anyone who was involved with anything when the pandemic hit, you had to double down on everything you were doing just to try and figure out how to survive and get through that time. So at that time, we got the opportunity to build a venue, since we had been bringing artists through Boise all year long as Duck Club, not just as during the music festival. And so kind of stepped back and reorganized and made it through the pandemic. But now it is a business that supports maybe 20 to 25 people year round to work on all of that. And we have a really great, thriving live music ecosystem in Boise. So, but what I guess back to your original question is that when you're part of this community and you get to work with people, and you know this, when you're involved with something like the YMCA, someone reaches out and says, we could use your smarts on this. We're trying to solve problems. And you have a friend who says, this person would be great on this project. And that's where I got to be part of things like Radio Boise. And a friend asked me to help start an organization called Idaho Business for the Outdoors for businesses to advocate for the protection of access to the outdoors, because that's how we recruit and keep people here. And then during the pandemic, I had a friend reach out to me who owns restaurants, and we started a nonprofit called City of Good that I still work on a lot. And the problem was at the beginning of the pandemic is, he said, I got a lot of people that they live by themselves and not coming to work, they're home alone. How do we put people back in kitchens so that they can get out of their house and make meals in isolated groups so they're protected against COVID? But also we have all these local farmers that have grown all this food and it's just going to waste. How do we take tax-free donations from people to help us buy the food, pay the people to go back to work in their kitchens, and then figure out who to give the meals to.
Right.
And
Wow.
so I was like, oh, I know how to do that. And that's how we came together. And I reached out to someone. We need some legal help, and we need someone who knows about systems. And so those are some of the ways that I've been fortunate to know people where I can come together with them and solve problems. And you can do that here.
Right.
To me.
So Treefort, and you said
Duck Club is the year-round parent
Club for
business
good.
that the Duck Club, or Duck Club Presents. We have we bring artists through Boise, and maybe over the years 5 to 10 different spaces, whether they were ours or other people's spaces, to perform.
Okay. Wow. So any other, you mentioned there were a variety of nonprofits. Any others that you're passionate about or you've been involved? I mean, at this point, we're just rolling. I mean, Laura, you're just cranking them out.
But I think, when you have the capacity to help and the skill set to help in something you care about, you do that at that time, and then it becomes someone else's turn. Like when my kids were at Foothills, which is a independent school downtown, it was my time to do what I could to help the school. So being on the board of the school at that time, it was great to be able to be helpful to that organization. But I still work on City of Good a lot. It's evolved and changed a lot, and it's one that I think has great momentum and a great future, so I still get to work on that one a lot.
Are you the type of person who can be at the start of something and then allow it to change in a healthy way, or is that kind of tough to watch your baby kind of change over time?
I don't have that issue.
Okay.
I feel like I just do my part, and I'm lucky to be part of something for as long as I'm useful, and as long as it's relevant.
Yeah. And
I don't want to ever overstay my usefulness or relevance.
So Treefort, I've known about Treefort, but I'm your not even a casual fan. I'm a person that doesn't know about live music, but I see it and I'm like, oh well, some big corporation just put it together. So it's so cool to hear that you helped get that off the ground. And I like to learn about things, so I watch YouTube clips, like documentaries to teach me. So there's a documentary about Coachella. I don't know if you've seen this about. Do you remember the part at the very end when one of the founders says to the other founder, "You've got to go see Black Panther right now"? I mean, so for our audience, at the very end, a founder says, "Go see Black Panther tonight," and the guy was like, "Well, I'll see it eventually." He's like, "No, tonight." Because they mentioned Coachella, they said Disneyland or Coachella in a way like everyone would know the name. And it was like their hair is blowing back dude, is that really how far we've gone? It was just a couple guys getting together at one time, and it kind of took off. So it must be really neat to see some of the things you've worked on really take off like that. Yeah,
and I do think that the elements, Treefort is, I was in the live music business, there's a lot of consolidation, and it's really hard to stay independent. And we fought really hard to be sustainable and a healthy organization and remain independent, because it just, once things become, no offense to the Live Nations and the AEGs, but they are, they bought up a lot of independence because it's hard to stay independent, but there is something special about having any independent business in a community, but particularly one that involves creativity. So we've really, really fought, and there's been a lot of sacrifice, definitely in the last 5 years, to keep it going and keep it independent. And I think that has, in the industry, we're hearing that everyone's watching to see if we can keep doing that, because there aren't that many places where that much of an independent live music scene, local live music scene, can really still exist. And so that's one of the things that we have been, and we believe in a lot, and we're still fighting for it. But it is really nice to hear from others in the industry, either worldwide, but also just nationally, that's been noticed for how special it is and how hard it is to do. And I think people are rooting for us. Right. Well, speaking of rooting for us, you and I are both in the independent insurance game. Same thing, yeah.
You've done benefits for years, and we have a portion of what we do is benefits. So don't do too good of a job. All right. Well, you already have all of our clients on the benefit side. So, we've been working symbiotically for a long time.
Yeah, I give a special nod to your calendars when I go to visit my clients.
Yes, our agents from decades past are still holding on to those calendars, and we're giving out fewer of them, but we still do. But being independents is kind of like being Treefort in a sense. I now keep a folder, and I haven't shared this, but I'll do a LinkedIn post on it someday. Probably once a week, we get an email or a phone call saying, hey, we're a private equity firm. We want to talk to you about an amazing opportunity.
Yeah.
Some of them are embarrassingly bad, but some of them are really gifted salespeople.
Yeah.
So you're in the same boat. You're getting those calls. So to stay independent and to try to do something special, but you have to keep punching above your weight class because there's so much competition now. Mm-hmm. So the parallels with, you're talking about these big music festivals kind of bearing down on you. We see that a little bit in the insurance industry, and you can protect yourself and do your own thing, but there's a lot of pressures that will come around.
Yeah, like I said earlier, sometimes it'd be nice to just be able to clock in and clock out and let somebody else worry about the rent and the future of your business and whether or not it's going to change and put you out of business. And if that's who you're being, your employees that you're wanting to, you're a team trying to support all your lives together.
Right.
And I remember when they passed the Affordable Care Act, a lot of the older agents at the time were just like, this guy is falling, they're not going to need independent agents anymore or agents anymore. And yeah, there is always that concern, but I'm hoping that for as long as it's as complicated as it is, I will be able to provide value, but to stay independent, there's a lot of automation. You've got AI and all these systems out there that what we like to do is to make it easier for a small employer to deal with their benefit side, because as you know, as a small employer, you wear many hats and they don't have an HR person. So they're also looking at all these new offers of systems and companies that will automate things like payroll and benefits and managing people. And I think that's where you see a lot of the consolidation and where can we provide the most value. I still think having control over what your services, that what we believe is that we try to help the small employer take care of their team and be that part of knowing what the options are, whether it's not just a policy, but also, okay, how many logins do my employees have to deal with to know where their benefits and insurance is and to change their address. And so helping our small employers really evaluate all of those things so that they can figure out how to take care of their team in the best way possible we're kind of an extension of what they're trying to do and helping them really continually look at what's available on that side so that they can figure out how they can keep running their business. And we're telling them how they can handle this part of it best as possible. I mean, that's where I feel like not being bought by a large conglomerate that just digitizes everything, that's where I feel like it's worth staying independent and it provides value for our clients.
Well, in many senses, the big agencies in our industry are trying to service center all the small business. Yeah. So a service center, you have independent agents. Okay, at the top, you have Lori Shandro, who's known someone for 25 years, who's helping their business. Then you drop down to service center, and rock bottom would be government service center, if it ever came to that. Yeah. I'm not against our government, but realistically, it's just really hard to maintain expertise when you're trying to cut costs at that level.
Yeah.
So it would be very tough for me to think that a lot of business owners would say, oh, shucks, I don't need someone to help. Well, when their key people at their office say, my family member has this complicated surgery, it's like Lindsay from your office will post things about like, here's how this works. And I'm watching her post going, I have no idea what's going on right now. But, and I know this much about benefits, but to have someone that knows what they're doing is really valuable.
Yeah, she's one of my heroes for sure. As far as I've never met anyone that and so her agency keenly benefits. And you know, what I tell people a lot is that I'm really trying to focus on what's happening now and how I can help people deal the best with what's happening now. When I think about her, she's out there trying to change the way things are and make it better.
Wow. Okay.
She's a real inspiration. But to your point about the more complicated things get, it's so easy, particularly if you're an individual and you're going on to Your Health Idaho, which is our marketplace. And the people that work there are great. And the people that work at Department of Health and Welfare are great. But they're not educated in when they say, if you don't know what your modified adjusted gross income is, you can really miss out on the opportunity to have really good, low-cost healthcare when you need it, because you don't know how to answer the question.
Right.
And someone at the Department of Health and Welfare, it's not their job to be able to teach someone how to figure out what their modified adjusted gross income is.
Right.
So having my tax background, sometimes I find myself sitting with someone and they'll say, I just quit my job. I'm really excited. I'm going to go start my own business. So I've got my savings and I'm going to, for the next 6 months, I'm not going to have income. I'm living on my savings while I build this business. And what I hear is, well, so what is page 1 of your tax return going to look like this year? Because this is the year that you could qualify for complete help from the Affordable Care Act with a tax credit to offset your premium and be offered the lower deductible plans that if something happens, you need that right now.
Right.
It's great if you can afford your health insurance, but if you're not on a plan that doesn't cost you $9,000 if something happens. So those are the things that I feel like nobody else can hear if they're just working at a company or an agency or a place that's processing one piece of it. Yeah. It's complicated, and people could miss the opportunity to be in a better position if they're not getting asked the right questions.
Right. Rarely does a person say, I found I had better service when I called a nameless, faceless service center somewhere, right?
Yeah. Well, I will say the people at Your Health Idaho and Department of Health and Welfare care a lot, and they're doing their best, but they're not trained to put it all together in that way. And so they will help as much as they can from their perspective and their point of view. So it's really nice to play a role in the middle where you can really help people do better at something that will make a big difference in their life.
Well, you and I share this in common, that if the insurance companies could just sell to consumers directly, they would.
Yep.
However, agents make a difference.
Yeah.
How many business owners do you know that if you walked into their office next year and said, you got to change from this carrier to this carrier, they're going to go, okay, do it, go for it. They're not going to be questioning you. Whereas, the carriers focus on what they do really well, but they can't go meet and understand the needs of every customer.
No, and that's really why for small employers and individuals, there is commission built into those products because they know they can't do that. They can't go out and figure out for a small business or an employee throughout the year or even at that time what is the best for that, because they can't advise on the whole marketplace.
Right.
And so, and there's just too much volume for them to be able to really help somebody evaluate what they need and what all the options are. So it's really nice that is built in there. And it's been, over the years, there have been times where they've kind of tried to take that out and do it themselves. But I think what they've continued to find is that people are happiest when they made a choice to choose their plan or their company for the right reasons.
So, as we kind of start, the plane enters its descent of our interview. What advice would you give to a young person who is considering the medical benefits world?
I don't know if I've ever met too many young people that are just like, you know what? It sounds fun. It seems like everyone I know that's happy in it either got into it by accident or because they had a family member, or they ended up working in adjacent to it. I would say to any young person, figuring out what lights you up and what you're interested in and what you like learning more about might lead you to that kind of job. But the people that are in it that love it, it's not because of the subject matter. It's because maybe the subject matter was interesting or compelling to them and they understand it. But there's some other piece that is fulfilling, like for me, really being able to get to know people throughout their lives and help them meet their goals and be a helpful part of their journey. So I don't know if I can imagine a young person asking that question specifically, but a young person who's, how did you get into what you're doing? How should I find something that I'll be happy doing and be good at? Just keep trying things until you figure out what it is about anything you do that is that really brings you happiness, regardless of the field or the subject matter. What is it that makes you want to get up and do it every day?
When you started your career in taxes, if you could have looked into a crystal ball and seen yourself sitting here doing a podcast in Idaho, reflecting on all of this, I mean, would that have been in your top 50 things you would have thought you would have seen in that crystal ball?
No, my parents were. I'm really grateful. But they both went. My mom went to nursing school. My dad went to the Air Force to learn how to be a pilot. So for them, college was a vocational school. So I got a college education, and their perspective was, what are you going to major in to get a job?
Right.
And so my experience then when I got an accounting job was that the people I was hired alongside were history majors, philosophy majors, English majors, and I was mad because I could have studied something that I was really interested in. And because they were like, the firm said, well, we can teach anyone how to do accounting, but we can't teach you how to be an interesting person. So that's why my kids don't get to answer that question about it.
Yeah, I think it's very wise because it changes too often, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, you can't major in something that doesn't exist yet that maybe you will be part of creating or you'll get to participate in the evolution of. So it's more about what makes your brain go crazy, what are you good at, what lights you up.
Right. Well, Lori, you have had an awesome career in medical benefits. Well, you have already had and will continue to have.
Still working on things.
But I think that's just part of it because I think you've also been a big part of the community here in Boise. And I will think of you when I drive by and see Treefort and all these other nonprofits that you're involved in. So thank you for joining me today.
Well, thanks for being interested. It's nice getting to know you a little better too.